good idea. What do narcissists do when you ignore them? And if you choose to change your interaction patterns, how can you ensure that you are protecting your self-worth and well-being at the same time? Of course, dealing with a narcissistic personality disorder isn't easy. Their reaction to being ignored tends to be dramatic, exaggerated, and chaotic. As you know, they want to make a scene. The narcissist wants to trigger you to feel ashamed, guilty, or confused about your choices. The goal here is simple. They need to feel in control, and they'll do whatever they can to maintain that feeling of power. Now, how does a narcissist react to being blocked on social media? How does a narcissist react to being blocked on social media? In a world where most of us are digitally connected, it's even harder to cut all contact with people. So if you choose to block the narcissist, then be prepared for the following. The narcissist might create fake profiles to stalk you. The narcissist might accidentally send you a friend request or follow you. The narcissist might call or text you demanding an explanation. The narcissist might continue viewing all your content using another friend's profile. The narcissist might attempt to smear you online to others. The narcissist might do nothing because they are biding their time and planning their next move. So in general, despite these potential consequences, blocking the narcissists tends to be more advantageous than remaining friends online. It can be dangerous for the narcissist to know your whereabouts, especially if they sense they're being ignored. So in addition, having online access to you makes it easier to engage in stalking or other obsessive behaviors. Furthermore, it may be toxic for you to continue checking in on the narcissist. Spending time online looking at their profile triggers you to think about them. So this thinking may provoke feelings of remorse, sadness, hope, or shame. So in a moment of weakness, these feelings may trigger you to reach out. So what happens when you begin ignoring a narcissistic text? Many narcissists use written communication to either love bomb or devalue others. So texting may feel safer for them. They can calculate what they want to say and spend as long as they need crafting the perfect message. So what happens when you ignore a narcissist and their incessant texting? Sometimes they might continue texting you, almost acting as if nothing happened. So in this case, the narcissist will pretend like they haven't noticed that you're not responding. Then the narcissist will simply go about their day having a typical conversation, updating you with various details they deem essential. So this can be frustrating, but it's the narcissist trying to convince themselves and you that everything is perfectly normal. So in other cases, the narcissist will pester you with questions. What's going on? Did you see what I last sent you? What are you doing later today? Why aren't you talking to me? What's your problem? So the questions tend to be direct, and that's because the narcissist is fishing for a response, even if it's just a one-word answer. Sometimes narcissists will flat out lie to get your attention once you've been ignoring them. Right? For example, the narcissist will send a sultry or emotionally charged text and then immediately say, "Oh, sorry, that was meant for someone else." So even if you don't respond, and you shouldn't, the narcissist often feels a sense of satisfaction knowing that you are now thinking about them. Or they might try to bid for your attention by feigning a crisis. "My dog is really sick and I'm taking my dog to the emergency vet right now. I hope you're doing well." So the crisis, of course, will be designed to tug at your heartstrings and make you want to reach out. But even if the crisis is real, the narcissist will often inflate the situation to trigger your emotions. So narcissists perceive you ignoring them as a personal attack. As a result, they won't respect your decision to preserve appropriate boundaries. Instead, they will view this action as a massive form of rejection. Rejection, as you likely know, tends to be a fatal blow to their vulnerable egos. That's why they can't tolerate it. You want a sense of freedom and respect. They want your attention and validation. And yet, their energy is all-consuming. And every time you stop ignoring the narcissist after a period of doing so, you only reinforce their toxic behavior. So how do you change this vicious narcissistic cycle of abuse? So what do narcissists do when you ignore them? Ignoring a narcissist sounds simple enough. You don't react or respond to them. You don't give them any time of your day. And if you must remain in their lives for whatever reason, you choose to remain entirely neutral for their drama. So if you want to know how to piss off a narcissist, that's one of the best ways to achieve it, by remaining disconnected and detached. They are left feeling unimportant. Of course, ignoring a narcissist fuels immense rage, even if they think they are being ignored. They start feeling anxious. After all, they believe they are entitled to whatever they want, whenever they want it. So anything that falls outside of that parameter feels like a betrayal. So if they sense they are being ignored, the narcissist will focus on one goal: getting your attention and reeling you back into their lives. So to achieve this goal, they will engage in various attention-seeking behaviors. These behaviors are often known as hoover techniques. Like the famous vacuum, narcissists will try to suck you back into their chaotic worlds. They may hoover you in many different ways, including begging for your forgiveness, reaching out to loved ones or mutual friends to get hold of you, stalking you, smearing you to others, moving on to the next supply, pretending that you never existed or mattered, apologizing incessantly, making up emergencies or crises to get you back. So keep in mind, they may alternate different strategies depending on the circumstances and their relationship with you. So they are more likely to hoover when they know their techniques will work. Finally, it's much easier to tap into a previous or current narcissistic supply than to find a new one. So because they already know your weaknesses, they will do whatever they can to exploit them. So how does a narcissist feel when you ignore their hoover attempts? Narcissists often feel a chronic sense of hollowness and emptiness. To try to compensate for those uncomfortable feelings, they require their narcissistic supply to temporarily feel whole. So the thought of losing the narcissistic supply, that is you, feels downright threatening. So if you first try ignoring them, they will probably doubt your endurance and ability to stay strong. They will engage a combination of hoovering tactics, sweet talking, gaslighting, reaching out to others, all to get you back into their orbit. So if a particular technique worked well in the past, they will probably rely on that one first. Over time, if you remain strong in your strategy, they often raise the stakes. Their tactics become more dramatic, frenzied, and intense, and this pattern embodies narcissistic abuse. So keep in mind, they aren't trying to understand your needs or have empathy for your feelings. Everything is about them and their perceived rejection. The narcissist thinks they are entitled to your attention whenever they want it. As a result, they often double down on their efforts to lure you back in. So when should you ignore a narcissist? You can ignore a narcissist whenever you want. After all, you deserve healthy relationships and respect. But choosing to ignore the narcissist successfully often requires dedication and commitment. So before making this decision, reflect on your motives. Are you trying to seek revenge? Do you want to irritate them? Are you hoping for a genuine apology? Do you think that you ignoring them will prompt them to change for the better? So if you are answering yes to any of these questions, then it's time to pause. Even if you briefly achieve what you want, it will likely be short-lived. Once you have their attention, you will probably return to your usual dynamic. Unfortunately, this approach only reinforces their manipulative behavior. You must recognize the importance of having realistic expectations. Most narcissists will not readily change their behavior once you ignore them. They might make half-hearted attempts to get better, but they often abandon these efforts once they can refuel their narcissistic supply. This pattern often leads you to feel exhausted, resentful, and angry. Ideally, you should ignore a narcissist once you want to completely stop enabling them. This may mean maintaining minimal contact or no contact at all. So if you ignore a narcissist, will they leave you alone? Probably not at first. Initially, you ignoring them feels like a challenge, but it's a game and they will feel determined to conquer and win. As I mentioned earlier in this video, if you have ignored them in the past, they will probably engage in the same tactics they previously used to elicit your attention. So, understanding the refueling of narcissistic supply. So if you've ever wondered how the narcissist can jump so quickly into a new relationship is because they constantly search for people who can adore and enable them. So this supply keeps them feeling safe and special. They depend on it for survival. A narcissist's ego is similar to a colander or a balloon with a hole in it. It can fill up, but it cannot hold the air or the water. So the person is also looking to be filled either by seeking validation or knocking others down when feeling threatened. So keep in mind that narcissists don't just use people. They will also try to fill their supply by achieving measurable successes, accumulating wealth, achieving a high status, having an ideal appearance, having an important or influential role, engaging in addictive hobbies or behaviors. Now, however, the efforts of the narcissist, no matter how impressive, they are futile. The narcissist has an insatiable need for adoration and validation. No matter how much they accumulate it never feels like enough. Moreover, their hunger never entirely disappears. As a result, the people who fall victim to their traps often feel exhausted and insecure. Unfortunately, the closer you are to a narcissist, the more likely they depend on you for their supply. So this is because they feel safe and comfortable with you. You have proven your loyalty to them. You have seemingly accepted their flaws and chosen to love them, and they will exploit your kindness for their own emotional gain. So if you cut this supply off, then the narcissist will likely feel abandoned. Then because they can't sit with that vulnerable feeling, they will lash out at you and try to divert their efforts elsewhere. So ignoring a narcissist who ignores you, what will happen? You might think that the narcissist ignoring you first means it will be easier for you to ignore them. However, this isn't true. If a narcissist ignores you, it's all about power and control. They want to show you how you have hurt them. Then they want you to recognize your mistake and apologize profusely for your wrongdoing. Then they might decide to forgive you. So it's a game of cat and mouse. They want your attention, long-winded promises, and your gifts of love. They want reassurance that you're genuinely and entirely there for them, that you accept their flaws and setbacks. So let's understand stonewalling. Some narcissists will engage in stonewalling to elicit a reaction. Stonewalling is an intentionally harmful tool people use to shut another person out. So if you're on the receiving end, it feels like the other person isn't listening to you. They have checked out completely. Stonewalling may seem like a temporary reprieve, especially in the middle of a heated argument. The narcissist is upset and ignoring you, and you might think this will all blow over once they start thinking rationally. But it's a calculated move. They want you to start asking what's wrong. They are betting on you apologizing or becoming anxious or trying to otherwise fix the situation. So who gives in first? Someone will eventually stop ignoring the other person, but when you are playing this game with a narcissist, you are doomed to lose. First, if the narcissist stops ignoring you, they will likely expect everything to return to normal. They've moved on, so they are no longer upset. They're ready to talk about things and get back on track. So what happens if you're still feeling angry, confused, or upset? Now you are the problem. You're the one who is dragging things out and making it all too complicated. On the other hand, if you persist and try to get them to speak, they probably will. But it's on their terms. They may lash out at you for not doing something right. They might criticize you. They might demean you or otherwise try to hurt your feelings. They will continue to try to drive home the point that you are responsible for all the issues in the relationship. So is ignoring a narcissist the best revenge? It can be, but revenge shouldn't be the goal. If it's your goal, you are stooping to their level, and that's a level you can't win. Remember, you aren't playing on the same field as the narcissist. If you attempt to play by their rules, expect to be disappointed and angry. So instead, ask yourself this: how much energy do you want to give this relationship? How well are your current boundaries working? Unfortunately, narcissists don't respond well to typical boundaries. Their self-esteem can't handle the notion of other people having needs that don't include them. So they build their lives around filling their narcissistic supply, and it's an endless quest for validation and security. Your needs feel insignificant to theirs, and they lack the empathy to understand your true feelings. Subsequently, if your needs are getting in the way of theirs, they will always prioritize their needs first, even if they pretend to act otherwise. So ignoring the narcissist might be the best revenge. revenge. But revenge should not be your driving motive. Instead, it's best to focus on building self-worth and attuning to your inherent needs for self-care. So, how to ignore narcissists? 7 steps for ignoring the narcissist. Ignoring the narcissist may feel easier said than done, even when you know you want to limit contact. Deciding where to draw the line isn't always straightforward. So if you have decided that it's time to honor your self-respect, then the task ahead may feel daunting. Narcissists and their loved ones often form a tight trauma bond, which happens due to cyclical abuse. So you may feel responsible for their happiness, and you might also feel some guilt for changing the status quo. So let me give you some tips to consider in ignoring a narcissist. Recognize the symptoms of trauma bonding. Trauma bonding can be a confusing concept. So you may genuinely care about the narcissist and their well-being, but at the same time, you probably feel disheartened and frustrated by their behavior. Trauma bonding happens when you feel a sense of love for someone you know. It's also that sense of love for someone you know is also hurting you. So other common signs of trauma bonding include feeling like you no longer even like the person, feeling completely distressed at the thought of leaving their relationship, wistfully hoping that they will change their behaviors, obsessing over the good days or good moments, making excuses or rationalizing their behaviors, particularly in front of the other people. Now, trauma bonding isn't exclusive to narcissists and their loved ones. It can happen to anyone in an emotionally or physically abusive relationship. Unfortunately, some people may not recognize the severity of these symptoms until someone else points them out or until they seek professional help. Now, let's understand the familiar patterns of narcissistic personality disorder. Being in a relationship with a narcissist can be stressful and confusing. However, it's helpful to know the narcissistic personality disorder is designed to react in predictable ways. First, ask yourself what you can do to reduce harm to yourself and your children. Your job is to find ways to protect yourself from the impact of stress. Perhaps you can limit the time you spend with the narcissist. Spend more time with social support and increase your self-care. Second, try the grey rocking technique. Third, go to the therapy with a therapist who can help you practice acceptance and commitment therapy. Fourth, learn to have compassion for yourself and be kind to yourself in times of stress. Now, identify your boundaries. Although narcissists struggle to respect other boundaries, it's still crucial that you consider your interpersonal limits. Regardless of the nature of your relationship, you are responsible for taking care of yourself. So boundaries may include setting rules around touch and intimacy, refusing to tolerate rude, offensive, or degrading language, setting specific guidelines about sharing or giving away money, creating limits around confidentiality and privacy. At the very least, you should spend some time reflecting on what boundaries mean to you. For example, what do you want to be non-negotiable in your relationship? How do you want other people to treat you? So it's okay if you don't know the answers right away. However, that should be a telltale sign that you owe it to yourself to consider how you can start taking better care of yourself. Now, avoid playing into the drama. Avoid feeding the narcissist attention-seeking behavior. By avoiding it, the narcissist has less incentive to rely on you for their narcissistic supply. Never show that you are unhappy with their behavior, because it will fuel their manipulative tendencies. You will have to learn emotional control. Stay calm, but be firm with what you want. Try the grey rock method. The grey rock method may be beneficial for people who cannot avoid all contact with the narcissist. It might be impossible to prevent all instances of narcissism. For example, it is often unrealistic to cut off all ties with your child's other parent, a difficult coworker, or a roommate. The grey rock method entails communicating without much emotion or interest. Instead of reacting to the narcissist drama, you act fairly and responsively, just like a rock. Communication therefore tends to be brief, matter of fact, and limited. You may avoid eye contact and engage in fairly non-committal phrases like or sure. Grey rocking can be a fantastic tool if you're still deciding what limits you want to maintain in the relationship. However, it is not necessarily recommended as a long-term approach. Over time, grey rocking can start to feel exhausting. Likewise, suppressing your emotions isn't a good idea. If you use this approach, make sure you have a healthy support system in place. Finally, you also want to be careful to avoid telling the narcissist what you are doing. Offering such disclosure can trigger even more rage or abuse. In addition, the narcissist won't understand why you are choosing to withhold critical information from them. So be careful who you confide in. It is not uncommon for narcissists to latch themselves onto your friends or family if they suspect you are pulling away. They may try to convince them that you are being unreasonable or difficult. They might also try to elicit their compassion and empathy. This is why it's important to be mindful of who you confide in when talking about the narcissist. Aim to connect with people who are not mutually connected to both of you. If you don't have anyone, consider reaching out to a therapist or another trusted professional. So this advice isn't meant to make you suspicious of others. It's simply to raise awareness of the various abuse strategies narcissists may employ to lure you back into the relationship. So consider the no contact approach. Ignoring is the foundation of taking a no contact approach. So while this approach may sound ruthless, it's often the best strategy for emotional healing. So when you stop all contact, you avoid gazing or adapting to the narcissist's needs. There is no gray area. The rules are simple and you have the freedom to resume living the way you want to live. However, a successful no contact approach requires discipline. You cannot answer their calls, text, or Facebook friend requests. So if other people ask you about what's going on, you need to remain firm in your boundary. Caving in on a no contact approach is exactly what the narcissist wants and often anticipates. So it's your responsibility to maintain your firm contact. The narcissist will probably continue trying to reach out. They will apologize and promise to change. They will become angry and spiteful and probably send you many rambling messages in the middle of the night. So these actions simply highlight their need for your attention. However, as long as you do not give them your attention, they lose that power and control. As a result, they also lose the ability to dictate how you live your life. So, what happens when you reject or ignore a narcissist? Narcissists and other toxic people are often psychologically and emotionally abusive. So this is mostly because they could not care less about hurting your feelings or anyone else's for that matter. They have seriously impaired empathy. And when you get to the sociopathic end of the cluster B spectrum, they have no empathy whatsoever. So narcissists will do everything to control you, to gaslight you, and to abuse you as long as it serves them in the end. So your suffering to the narcissist does not matter at all. But one thing you can do to get the narcissist back for their abusive behavior is to ignore them. You may think that ignoring the narcissist doesn't sound like it would really make a difference in how they control you, but it does. So there are certain things that happen when you ignore a narcissist. Number one, the narcissist gets scared. Number two, the narcissist will begin to gaslight you again. Narcissists cannot stand the idea of being ignored, so they will do anything they can to get your attention. This means that one of their favorite kinds of manipulation will pop out again, and that's gaslighting. Gaslighting is a pervasive and highly effective tactic meant to manipulate you. The narcissist will use psychological means to sort of push you into questioning your own sanity. So this could be as simple as the narcissist sending messages about the fun times that you had with them. Alright? They will make up stories about the lovely romantic dinners you had with them, which never happened, or which were ruined by the narcissist as usual. So they may even go to the extreme by saying how memorable the trip to a certain country or city was with you, and how you cannot just throw those memories away, even though this trip never happened or was toxic due to the narcissist's bad behavior. So, in short, just keep ignoring them. The narcissist will become angry when you ignore them. So, number four, the narcissist, they'll give up and find a new victim when you ignore them. So this is the part that you know logically you want, but you also secretly fear, at least in the beginning. It is when the narcissist goes on and finds a new source of narcissistic supply. A narcissistic supply is usually a person, but can also be a pet or a group of people. So narcissists use the narcissistic supply for attention, validation, admiration, all the supply they need to feed their ego. So the narcissist often has a circle of supply or narcissistic harem. So you have ignored the narcissist and got them out of your life. They may have even accepted that you are not accessible to them anymore. So this hurts their ego a lot, but they will not change or have learned anything. So they will forget about you and find a new victim. You can only hope that any future victims that the narcissist finds will be able to ignore them again and again. So there are a lot of questions that people ask about the narcissist and the new supply. So don't forget to watch that in my YouTube channel. I have a whole videos on that. So ignoring a narcissist is the best punishment you can give them. It will be difficult when they are infuriated by this, but it will set you free in the end. So what happens when you reject a narcissist? How long do you need to be with a toxic person before they'll stalk you? All right. So you must understand that when you ignore a narcissist, you must understand revenge is never a good idea, but understand this. Ignoring a narcissist spouse, a narcissist partner or boyfriend is for your good, as the narcissist will stop at nothing to hurt you. They will try to destroy your confidence and sense of self entirely till you start feeling worthless. So what do narcissists do when you ignore them? So first of all, why do you want to ignore a narcissist? First off, why do you want to ignore them? Why do you want to ignore the narcissist? Is it to punish a narcissist for all their wrongdoings, their abuses, their manipulation, gaslighting, their lies and hurt? Do you think if you ignore a narcissist text, it will make them realize their wrongs, that he or she will come crawling back to you? So apologizing for all the abuse, do you think that will happen if you ignore narcissist text? So if you're expecting a heartfelt apology, then sorry to burst your bubble. But narcissists, all right? But narcissists rarely apologize, and even if they do, they probably are faking being sorry. So number one, do you want to ignore narcissists to take revenge? You probably by now must have realized that when it comes to hurting others' emotions and crushing self-worth, the narcissist has mastered this art. You'll probably never win this fight. So ignoring them just for getting back at them will not be the best thing for you. Number two, are you ignoring the narcissist who ignores you? So if you ignore a narcissist who is also ignoring you, then you are playing right into their hands. It will only make them hoover more. They will slowly make you think that they have changed, that now they are willing to give you all that you want, love, respect, dignity, while in reality they will be faking it. So number three, are you ignoring a narcissist because you want to leave? So if you want to leave a narcissist, then you shouldn't leave any way for them to come back. Have zero contact with them. Just wipe them out from everywhere, even from social media. Ignoring a narcissist text, a call is your best shot at moving on in life. Even if you reply to even a single email or Facebook comment, you are paving way for them to return in your life and wreak havoc. So if you are ignoring a narcissist with the hope that he will mend his ways, then you are doomed, because that won't happen. So the steps to take so that you don't allow narcissists to hoover. Number one, no contact. Many people fail to implement this. Either they will leave an opening of communication, all right, through Facebook or emails. So the thing with no contact is leaving no way of contact between you and the narcissist. No texts, no calls, no common friend circle, nothing at all. Only this way you can get rid of their existence from your life. Otherwise, you can relapse and again start the abusive relationship cycle with the narcissist. Never blame it on you. The narcissist insult and target you to hurt you. So if you don't listen to the insults, the abuses, then they won't get the satisfaction of seeing you hurt. It was never your fault. They are like this. So you tried your best to make the relationship work. Now it's time to move on. So get help from family and friends. First, you need to acknowledge that you need help. You can't handle them alone. Try to find as much support as you can from your trusted, near and dear ones. Then recognize your limits. If the narcissist you are dealing with is your colleague or co-parent, then it is difficult to cut ties completely. These are situations where you have to use the grey rock method. Remember to communicate only when it is very necessary. It will help you in avoiding relapse, and also you can avoid the hoovering of the narcissist. So one-word responses, only telling times and dates are your best way to handle those situations where you have to contact them. So try to have a third person as a buffer. If there's a third party involved between you and your narcissist, then your interactions automatically become minimal. Get a trusted friend or a parent to act as a go-between you and the narcissist. Then ignore them if you can't leave them. I know it's easier said than done, but for your own sake, you shouldn't engage in any sort of fight with them. They are the experts and pro at making you feel hurt and crush your emotions. You need to set boundaries and develop some negotiation skills. You can't win over them, but can try to avoid any sort of confrontations with them. So what do narcissists do when you ignore them? Narcissists need people to feed their egos. They always try to devalue and demean those who don't agree with them or try to make them see their flaws. So does a narcissist like to be ignored? The answer is a classic narcissist hates being ignored. So they thrive on attention and praise. So being ignored hurts everyone, but for a narcissist, this rejection hurts like hell. Why? Because the narcissists view ignoring as an act of putting down their self-worth and reminding them of their shameful, neglected, and abusive childhood. So how does a narcissist act when you ignore them? When you ignore them? It will depend on how malignant the narcissist is. It may happen that when you ignore the narcissist, they may become violent or furious. Some may start stalking you, while some narcissists ignore an important message, right? May not care at all. So what happens to a narcissist when they're ignored? Two things that happen when you ignore a narcissist are they will start thinking in their minds that the person who ignored them was inferior to them, just to soothe their fragile egos. Thus, won't think much about the person who ignored them. You are lucky if your narcissist takes this approach. Number two, if the person who ignored the narcissist, a highly valued person, then they will start treating that person very badly. The narcissist may try to malign that person, start malicious gossip about the person who ignored them, just to prove that they are worthless. So what do narcissists do when you ignore them? When ignoring the narcissist, you don't realize you're indirectly getting them to pay attention to you, and then you become interesting to them. So what do narcissists do when you ignore them? They will try everything to get you to pay attention to them. So if you're aiming for them to leave you alone, then you fail at it. If by chance they don't care about what you're doing, then that means they think you are so inferior to them to pursue you at all. So this will hurt you. So in both the scenarios, it's not good for you. Either they find you interesting when you ignore them and then try their best to make you fall for their manipulation that they have changed. So if you relapse, you will get abused. And if they don't care what happens to you, then also you will be questioning your worth and how much you had given to this relationship in past and how little it meant to them. So a narcissist wants you to admire them and to be in awe of their shiny, happy, and magnanimous personality so that you don't get to see their true self that is all smoke and mirrors. They have very low self-esteem and without any internal ego support. So what happens when you ignore the covert narcissist? The simple answer to what do narcissists do when you ignore them is that it will make the narcissist act in certain ways for which you must be prepared. So when you ignore them, the narcissist will go on smear campaigns. A narcissist typically would start to badmouth you to whomever they can and smear your name. They will try to put all blame on you for the fallout, making you the bad guy and them the victim in the relationship. You will be portrayed as the crazy one, the cheater, liar, and whatnot. Then there will be sob stories for the new supply. Remember, the narcissist already has a new supply ready before they will discard you completely. So never blame yourself for their cheating. The truth is, narcissists will cheat, so it's not you but them that are at fault. They will just go on spinning long tales about how you abuse them to their new supply. This makes the new supply think, oh, poor thing, he'll fix you. So in this way, they'll keep on controlling the new supply till their mask slips. Then there's hoovering. Believe me, you will get hoovered if you are maintaining no contact with the covert narcissist. You may get a lot of calls, texts, or emails. You just need to ignore the covert narcissist on all forms of communication. Then attacking through the third person. Someone close to the narcissist, usually the new supply, may try and verbally abuse you